Hi there, I am Richard Kennedy, Chief Operations Officer of the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We are indeed delighted to join with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Barbados to celebrate this year's Accountants Week. We have seen how our nation has been uprooted and faced with adverse economic conditions in a way none of us could have anticipated. However, our nation is resilient, and as the island's largest indigenous financial institution, we aim to contribute to the rebuilding of the well-being of our members and the communities we serve. We consider our members to be our family, and not only seek to be their financial partner, but we continue to empower generations of Barbadians by providing meaningful connections for people of all walks of life, forging unforgettable relationships, and fostering unbreakable bonds through every stage of life, from the cradle to retirement. In addition to providing quality services, competitive financing and investment solutions, we believe in the importance of supplying tools to help Barbadians uplift and empower themselves through financial literacy, categorical grants, charitable donations, and sponsoring our community's initiatives. Continuing to be a source of hope and comfort in unprecedented times such as these. Exemplifying the theme of this year's Accountants Week, purpose, passion, possibilities, Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited provides guidance for intentional paths for our members to walk in their purpose, resources to fulfill their passions and dreams, and support through education and financial provisions to birth endless possibilities. We continue to solidify our commitment to the economic growth of Barbados by offering financial services to people of all ages and classes, leveraging our ethos of educating and empowering persons in the area of their finances, providing support to individuals, micro, small, and medium enterprises, and corporates through Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited and its subsidiaries. It is indeed our pleasure to forge this new partnership with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Barbados. We look forward to building a strong relationship with them in the future, and we wish them an exciting and successful Accountants Week 2021.
All right, good evening, everyone. I am Audley Bakker, a member of the ICAB Education and Student Services Committee. So welcome to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Barbados' virtual student conference under the theme Refresh, Renew, Refocus. So before we get started, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items so you know how to participate in this evening's conference. You will have the opportunity to submit questions to each presenter by either typing in your questions in the question and answer panel, or you may raise your hand to be unmuted for verbal questions. So please know that you may send your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect the questions and address them during the question and answer session. So please note that this evening's conference will also be recorded. Without further ado, I would like to invite the Vice President of ICAB, Tracy Marshall, to say a few words. Tracy?
Yes, thank you, Audley. And good evening, everyone, and a warm welcome to our speakers, sponsor, and of course to you, our students this evening. My name is Tracy Marshall. I am currently the Vice President of ICAB, and I'm also an assurance partner with EY. Today marks International Accounting Day, and some of you have already begun your journey on the road to becoming a professional accountant. Others are about to start. About 16, 17 years ago, I was in the same place you are today, and since then, the way we carry out our business and responsibilities, the way we serve our clients, has changed dramatically. You are entering the profession at one of the most exciting and innovative periods in its history. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this to you. The theme for this evening's conference is Refresh, Renew, and Refocus. And I'm going to add 2 words to that: reveal and redefine. Why? Because we are now able to reveal to our clients things about their businesses that they were completely unaware of. And by doing so, we have redefined our profession and its value. Over the past decades, our profession has been undergoing a digital transformation that has literally redefined who we are and what we do. I'm talking about information technology that previous generations in our profession could not even have dreamt of. No more are we simply bean counters equipped with calculators. That's definitely not who we are. We now have a box of tools, and those are digital tools at our disposal that are enabling us to add value with a renewed and refreshed approach that goes way beyond simply completing an audit report or a set of financial statements. Equipped with these tools, we are now problem finders and solution providers. For example, technology, specifically automation, has taken over many of the long routine tasks that once associated with auditing and accounting. It saves us time and it saves our clients money. But digital tools are helping us to do much more than that. They are empowering us to be critical thinkers and analysts. And these are attributes that enable us to generate value for our clients today. 2 of the most powerful of these digital tools are data mining and data analytics. Company data tells a story, and if you know how to analyze and interpret it, you have access to so much of that company's data that you will be in a good position to see things that have gone wrong or may have gone unnoticed by management. In other words, to uncover areas of risk. And we can do this now in a very short space of time. All of this allows clients to better identify and manage risks. It frees up management to focus on issues that matter. You'll hear a lot about sustainability and other environmental and social issues. All of those are topical. It also enhances transparency and accountability in financial reporting. And these are very important to audit committees and to investors. And of course, it enhances our reputation as professional accountants and auditors, because it allows us to ask insightful questions about the data we have before us. Our clients like this, and the C-suite team, they like this. As you develop your knowledge and grow in this profession, with all that's before us, there's a need to balance life and work. Additionally, as the more experienced folks would say to us, you aren't young forever. So there's no time like the present to start thinking about investing in your future. And whether that's financial investments, spiritual investments, physical investments, what have you. Now I could go on, but I won't, because I think you've heard enough to know that you are not entering a dull, repetitive profession at all. It may seem so at first, because there is a lot of technical stuff that you now have to learn. But once you have that behind, you will discover that your ability to add value, to help business leaders make sound decisions, will make you very valuable as well. I want to wish you all good luck and a very successful conference this evening. Now, before I hand over to the moderator for today, a lot of what we do would not be possible without our sponsors. And I'm pleased to introduce our key sponsor for this evening's proceedings, Richard Kennedy, who's the Chief Operations Officer of the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited, who recently joined the organization in June 2021. Richard possesses over 20 years' experience in the financial services sector, with his most recent roles being Associate Director, International Corporate and Private Wealth Management, and a member of the Country Management Committee at CIBC First Caribbean International Bank. In addition to his roles within banking, Richard is also a past president of the Rotary Club of Barbados South and remains actively involved in the club's activities. Throughout his many years in banking, Richard has worked in many other roles, from being a teller to a project manager in a learning and development unit. In addition to considerable industry knowledge, Richard possesses a Bachelor of Science in Political Science with Public Sector Management and is also currently pursuing a graduate diploma in law. As the head of the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited Operations Department, Richard is responsible for the majority of the departments in the organization, including loans, marketing, finance, accounts, IT, card and e-services, contact center, and savings. So Richard is a very busy man. His portfolio houses a number of projects and new initiatives, such as the new Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited Debit MasterCard, the online loan application system, the launch of the Thrift Club program for the kids, and a number of other upcoming projects. Richard, thank you and a warm welcome to you.
Thank you so much. It was interesting to hear how busy I really am at sometimes, but I guess it's all part of the role of the executive these days. We are always inundated with a number of things, but we make it through. And I think you students have something you have to look forward to, a busy schedule, but Alison will be able to speak to you about those things a bit more in her presentation. But as mentioned, I am Richard Kennedy, and I am the COO of the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited. And we are truly honored to partner with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Barbados to sponsor this year's Students' Conference. We are cognizant that you are at a stage in your life where you are either seeking to determine your career path, to retool and upskill yourself, or yearning to enhance your educational scope to higher learning. As the largest Indigenous financial institution, it is only fitting that we support, uplift, and provide financial resources to Barbadians seeking to propel themselves through education. Whatever your aspirations are, the credit union ensures that you reach your goals through our educational finance framework. These are all part of our ethos of the credit union movement. We provide a suite of financing options specifically for members of Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We provide our student loans facility, which is a flexible and more affordable financing option, perfect for both international and local study. This loan encompasses a period of interest-only payments until you complete your studies, and full payments are then made after a short grace period, giving you a time to get on your feet and set you on your career path. Our student loan is typically ideal for persons in the early stages of their tertiary educational journey. Other products and services we offer for continuous development of our members are our educational loans, our scholarships and grants, and tuition discounts with a number of local educational institutions. Our ultimate aim is to be your partner in your educational and literary journey, allowing you to focus on what truly matters while fulfilling your aspirations with financing options tailored to your unique situation with one goal in mind: excellence. So, we do hope that you enjoy today's Students' Conference, and we thank you so much for having us as a sponsor this evening. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for your remarks. So we at ICAB are very appreciative and thankful to the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited for being the sponsor for the 6th annual ICAB Student Conference. So we also do look forward to our continued partnership with the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union. So without further ado, the first topic on the conference agenda is a guide to a work-life balance. So I would like to introduce Ms. Alison Brown-Ellis. Alison Brown-Ellis is an experienced corporate executive with over 23 years of experience. In her capacity, she leads a dynamic team and sets strategy for K Shepherd Card Barbados, Inc. Alison has successfully led her company to acquire the status of the first non-financial institution in the English-speaking Latin American Caribbean region to obtain a principal membership license with Visa International. So prior to her current role as CEO, Alison spent 13 years at First Caribbean International Bank. So she has a proven track record in leading change initiatives with expertise in implementation of innovative products, business development, marketing, and customer experience strategies. So Alison holds an executive diploma from the Ivy Business School, Western University, and an MBA with a distinction from the University of Surrey. Alison is also a certified John Maxwell team coach and an affiliate member of the Chartered Institute of Marketers. So she currently is a council member of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, where she also chairs the Marketing and Communications Committee. So despite starting from humble beginnings, Allison has managed to successfully build her career and strong personal brand. Today, Allison juggles many hats while maneuvering the rigors of the corporate world. As a mother, wife, daughter, council member, and professional mentor to many, Allison is passionate about the professional development of our future leaders, which has led to the recent launch of her new book. Her book, Life Lessons, A Purpose-Driven Leadership Journey, is a testament that it really does not matter where you start and to what is possible when dreams and aspirations are married with self-belief, hard work, determination, consistency, and a strong faith in God. So I will now hand over to Allison Brown Ellis. Allison?
Thank you so much, and a pleasant good evening to everyone. Wanted to take the opportunity first and foremost to thank the ICAB team for connecting with me to present at today's student conference. It is so ironic because this is exactly where I started my career, wanting to be a chartered accountant many years ago, and actually completed 2 of my ACCA exams before realizing that my passion for people actually trumped my passion for the numbers and led me on a completely different path. So really good to be here, and I'm humbled to be able to present to you this evening. I always smile when I hear my bio because it always it gives the professional side of Allison, and I wanted to, since we're talking about balance this evening, I wanted to just bring a bit of balance to the station. The picture that I'm featuring is my daughter Amaya. She's 13 years old, and she, being her mom actually is my greatest fulfillment and in this life, I would have to say. So I wanted to say that first and foremost, so we can bring some balance to what you heard, which is probably a very busy executive. I am also a person of heart. I tend to lead a lot of what I do from the heart, which you could imagine could be very dangerous at times, but it's something that I firmly believe in and has worked for me in the past. I also love to decorate, can get lost in a good TV series very, very quickly if given the time, and I really and truly am very passionate about men. Others. So I just wanted to bring some balance back to the conversation. To speak to you today on the topic under the theme Refresh, Renew, Refocus, and with a theme of a guide to work-life balance. And I'll start by sharing a story with you. For 3 of the persons that I shared that I was going to be making this presentation, they all said, that's an interesting topic for you. Of course, I got very defensive very quickly, and I laughed and I said, but why? And they said, but all you know is work. You know work and more work. And it really, really caused me to pause and to think about how I would approach today's presentation. So going on to, just before I got deep into the presentation, I really wanted to share that life is really coming at us hard. And because of that, we are constantly in this phase of almost as though there's no opportunity to really just kind of step back from life at times. Really this, we're always on the go, kind of always switch on kind of mentality and mindset. And that, even though, it's all part of the fact that we're go-getters, you're all aspiring accountants, you've enrolled because you see a future ahead, you want to pursue that future, you're passionate, let's hope that you're all passionate about pursuing that. And basically, you're literally always locked on. And that brings us in, or puts us in a position where sometimes we are not achieving the kind of balance that we want in life because of this preconceived notion of work-life balance. And I am here to share with you this evening that I am probably a lesser supportive work-life balance and a more a bigger supporter of work-life blend. And I'll try to explain that throughout this presentation, because we are so focused on trying to achieve certain prerequisites in different aspects of our life that sometimes it can cause us to feel as though we're failing in a particular aspect of life. And it is very important to realize that, there's no right proportion in any way. What we have to achieve as career professionals is the right blend to walk, because our careers are important to us. We have to continue to focus on our professional development, make time for fun and leisure, find things that fuel our soul, in terms of your spirituality, because that helps to keep you grounded. But equally also recognizing that health is the new wealth, and literally making sure that we can carve out time to do all of these things that we have, that then gives us a greater blend, versus focusing on applying this undue and unnecessary pressure to our, where we feel as though there's this pie in the sky kind of thing that we're supposed to achieve, called work-life balance. I'll share another story with you as well, and just some real empowering words that someone said to me recently. This lady that I see as my mentor and we were trying for months to catch up, and the only thing that was stopping us was our work schedules. And it literally took us about 6 months to be able to sit and have a lunch, just have lunch, no meeting, just pure lunch, and being able to catch up with each other. And after the meet and greet, we had a good few laughs at ourselves for how busy we are, and just being kind of reminding ourselves that, listen, we really need to do better, right? Which we both agreed to at the time. But in my kind of challenging to say, but how are you doing all of this? How are you keeping up with all of this? And, same question was fueled at me. But she said something to me that day that has really the way that I started to do things. And she said to me, Allison, work is part of life. Part of your challenge is that you're trying to separate your personal endeavors from the way that you're managing your work life, your work calendar, your work schedule. And those words actually really caused me to start to do some things very differently that actually ease some of the pressures that I was feeling. So this whole concept of, that full clean separation was what she was trying to demyth. And I would say to you that, yes, I'm at executive level, but she's been at executive level for a lot longer than I have. So I took those words and really recognized that I needed to make some adjustments that would ease some of the stress that I was actually feeling, so that I could start to achieve this better blend in how I was managing my life. So you're all accountants, aspiring accountants, and some accountants on the call. And I know that you're going to have an appreciation for the fact that, there's certain things you have to do in this life in terms of how you move in order to get paid. And I'm that likes playing on the words. So I'm the CEO of Pace Digital, so Pace, which is spelled differently. So we're going to work with this acronym for the rest of this evening, this acronym PAID, because it is very important that, we have appreciation that once you have a degree of ambition, it is very, very important that you're provided with the guidance that allows you to achieve the success that you want to achieve. And therefore, when I talk about PAID, I'm actually going to be sharing what I see as some of the fundamentals that help to ease some of the pressures that you're feeling in terms of this thrust for achieving greater balance in your life, or this blend as we're now going to call it going forward. And the reality is that as you are pursuing your profession, and working and studying is not easy. I have been there my entire life. I've not had the privilege of going to school and then starting to work. I've literally been in classrooms from 17 years old while I'm 17 years old. So I'm telling you that I know exactly where you are. The only thing I have on you is a little bit more time, so I'm ahead of the game. But I've been there, I've done that. and I'm going to be sharing with you this evening some of the aspects of your life that can make it a little easier in terms of how you go about doing what you are doing. And the first thing really is to understand that once you set this foundation that I will share with you this evening, you're actually taking some of the unnecessary tension away from how you are managing on a day-to-day. And it is very important that you understand that this pressure that comes from once you don't have this foundation set, it actually affects you not just emotionally or mentally, but also physically. So the whole idea is that you can set this foundation so that you are in a position to do a better job at managing through the rigors of life that will come at you. And sometimes they come very hard, right? So let me just back and explain what the acronym PAID stands for as we go through today's presentation. The first is for purpose, understanding your why and what you're doing and why you're doing it, so that you can always come back to your core and be able to stimulate the fuel that to continue going forward. And then that then leads to your attitude, and recognizing that the attitude you bring to life essentially will set the tone, your actions, your behaviors, and everything that is tied to how you are executing in your daily life. And that then ties in with your intention and being intentional in what you are doing, which then is supported by the discipline that you need to start to integrate into your life. And I know that you guys are probably expecting me to talk about this one first, which is the pause, recognizing that as young career professionals, as career professionals in general, we need to know when to stop. We need to know when to slow down, and we need to know when to reposition ourselves to ensure that we are allowing our bodies and our minds time to catch up with each other. So let's jump right into it. This image that's on the screen, normally when I'm doing presentations, I like to use this image because it really sets a tone, and some people tend to see this image, they see faces, some people see an hourglass, some people see a lamp. All of that is perfectly fine, because all it does is it highlights to us that life is all about perspective. It's about how we see things, and that makes a huge difference in how we react to things and how we are responding to things. So I always like to say that where I am in this journey, and I wish I kind of recognized that a lot sooner than I did, but you know, you have to go through your own journey, is that life, yes, we are pursuing success, but the goal now for me is more fulfillment. I want to be able to be satisfied with what I am doing. And therefore, this is a quote I came across very recently. It says, you want to wake up and move every day with determination. That's the success. That's the drive to get things done. But you want to go to bed with satisfaction. And I just think that that was such a powerful quote that I really wanted to share that with you. And just to say that as you're setting your mind for this grind, because that's what I tend to refer to it as now, you need to ensure that you are positioning yourself not just to feel a sense of success, but also to achieve a sense of to achieve fulfillment in all that you do. Talk about purpose, because this is where it really starts. And what I would say to you is that it is so important to evaluate the reason behind what you are doing. You need to understand your why, because once you start to understand your why, it gives you the thrust to continue, the motivation that is needed to keep pressing forward. It does not mean that it will not be easy. It just means that you will have the emphasis to keep pushing, because you understand that growth requires purpose. If your desire for growth is aligned with a purpose that you can connect to, I can almost guarantee that you will continue to find ways to achieve the things that you want to achieve. And it also helps to be able to save you from a lot of stress, Because the reality is that if you are fighting against the tide in what you are doing, you are essentially going to be creating an unnecessary tension that creates the stresses and all the health problems that we tend to, allow to fester in our lives from time to time. So I would also say to you that purpose, you literally are you're going to continue to struggle. You guys have made a decision that you are going to pursue the numbers, So, and I think Tracy alluded to it earlier. There's so many innovations. You're starting this life at a time, this journey at a time where, businesses have transformed. So you have to ask yourself at this juncture, is this still the course that you want to take? And I'm not encouraging anyone to take a different course. I'm just saying that the more you connect with it, the easier the journey the easier the journey becomes, and it helps you even when it comes to exams and you're feeling overloaded because many of you are probably working and studying. It helps you to continue to push because that determination to succeed is actually driven by a deeper purpose. So I just wanted to also it also gives you the momentum to ensure that as you're enjoying the highs, but equally it stimulates your ability to bounce back when you have lows. And it is very important that you reach a stage where you are understanding the reason behind what you are doing, and so that you can continue to embark on this journey with a sense of purpose. Let's talk about attitude, because this is one, as I love to tell persons now, and I've said this to my management team, we are only hiring persons that bring the attitude that is needed to fit the culture that we are trying to inculcate within the organization, because we can train for everything else, all the competencies you can train for. You cannot train someone to bring the kind of attitude that they need, that level of, the critical thinking that Tracy referenced, the ability to be proactive, someone that is solutions oriented. These are things that you literally they have to be innate to you. But to be able to achieve the kind of you have to think about your mindset, because you have to set your mind to achieve this to be able to sustain the level of brain that you're going to have to go through as career professionals. It is not easy out there, and I have to say that to you because many times people look on and they see us in these roles and they think that it is, maybe we make it easy, but this is because the foundation has set. And we're trying our best to maneuver the rigors of the intensity of the realities that are tied to the roles that we executed. And you heard Richard's long list of deliverables just now. And literally, if we were to do a similar with Tracy or myself, that you would see that there's no easing up. So you literally have to have your mind set for the path that you are about to pursue. And there's a saying that once you set your mindset, that starts to influence your attitude. And that I have lived and breathed as a career professional, because your attitude actually influences your actions, it influences your reactions, it influences your behaviors, it influences your relationships, and these are all things that contribute to your level of success. It is very important that you understand that your attitude really is a composite of your thoughts, your beliefs, your feelings, and your actions. And once you can connect with that, you then start to behave, you start to be very intentional with your attitude and ensure that you're focusing on the positives and the productive side of things versus, allowing your mind to wander off in areas of negativity. Because once you allow that, you literally start to put yourself in a position where you're feeling a burden. There's this, everything starts to get to you. You're a lot more irritable. It's harder for you to self-regulate and come back to a centered point so that you can focus on the things that you need to do and accomplish the things you need to do. There's also a saying that basically says that you are only as good as your mindset, and then your mindset is what essentially fuels your attitude. So it is important that we realize that having a positive attitude is a choice, and encouraging each and every one of you as you approach life and you approach this journey that you're all on or now embarking on, that you recognize that if you have a mindset that I can do this, I can achieve this, it starts to translate into the attitude that you bring to the work, you bring to your papers, you bring to your submissions, you bring to your job. So it's really just wanting to highlight the fact that your mindset will really dictate the outcome that you will have as a career professional going forward. That's the A within the PAID. And then we talked, and I touched on this earlier, in terms of your intention, being intentional in how you're using your time, being intentional in your daily actions. And I'm going to share this story with you just to bring context to what I'm sharing with you. Recently, I was participating in our group strategy session. So all of the executives within the Cape Shepherd group, we were together, our board, our executive team, and we have one of my colleagues, very, very sharp and smart individual, and always the one in the room that asks the tough questions, very well articulated in terms of how he presents his questions, his points, his alternate views. And we had gone through half of the session, and we're now breaking for lunch, and I didn't find him. I was looking for him, so I went and I sat with some of the others, and because I wanted to pick up a conversation, but I couldn't find him. And later in the probably half hour into lunch, we were wrapping up, and I see him going to the car, but he was not dressed with work clothes. And I'm like, where's he going, or where did he go? But anyway, 2 minutes later, he comes back now in full attire. And he's in this full attire. And I said, but where did you disappear to? And he says to me, oh, I took a swim. I'm like, what? In the middle of the day, in the middle of a group strategic planning session, and he goes and takes a swim. And I'm like, but why? He says, oh, because two things. I'm near the ocean, and anytime I'm near the ocean, I take advantage of it. And two, it gives me clarity. And I was just blown away, and I had to share that with you because he had set the intention that he was not only going to manage how he was using his time, but he was not going to miss an opportunity, not just for health reasons, but also because it brings him a clarity that allows him to manage through and have a more significant contribution in a session like this that is normally so taxing on the brain. So I shared that with you because you have to make conscious decisions to be very intentional with your time. You have to make conscious decisions that your actions are going to be aligned with the things that you want to achieve in this life. You are going to, I always advise younger career professionals to don't set goals for yourself, but write your goals down, because that's how you start to hold yourself accountable for those goals. Also, make sure that you are evaluating your progress over time. And we'll talk about this a little bit later as well, because the more that you have those goals in front of you, you are able to chip away and see if you are being intentional in what you are doing, because intention is the best way to be able to achieve results. So it is very important that you also this, wherever your focus goes is where your energy will go. And that is something that I live by. So if I want to achieve something, and then that's where I'm going to almost have a little tunnel vision, especially a timeline associated with it, but it's only going to get that level of focus from me if it is tied to the purpose of behind everything that I am doing. So it is very important that you put yourself in a frame of mind to always be in a positive and a productive zone. Also be conscious and make sure that you have persons around you, so not just being in your own actions, but also with the persons that you have in your circle, because I'm a big advocate for having accountability partners. So whether it's in your study groups, whether it's finding persons within that are maybe at the same level of you or at a level above you, just ahead of you, so that you can have persons to be able to share, that continue to push you and encourage you, even to say to you sometimes from time to time, hey, you need to slow down, or you may need to pause, because these are that of an accountability partner, as well as maybe find yourself a mentor, because they are going to be lows. And when you experience those lows, it is very important that you have someone that doesn't allow you to get below a certain level. It is very, very important that you are being very intentional with these things, because when the demands of life and studying and all these things come at you, you need to have the structures in place to be to bring you back in line, or to bring you back to a level, because our energy level is very, very important, an important factor to our level of success. And I touched briefly on this very, very important because discipline is the thing that will keep you in line with your goals. It is so important that you consider the daily structure and habits you have behind you. The reality is that living an undisciplined life is one of the worst and most detrimental things to our level of success. We all have the potential, and we believe we have the potential because we've signed up to do the program. We've signed up for the job. So we believe that we have it, but then sometimes we fail to put the structures behind it. And all I would say to you is that sometimes the smallest changes can make a huge difference to how you are executing on a day-to-day basis. And I think I shared with you earlier that just sitting with a colleague and hearing her say to me, Allison, part of work is part of life. And I didn't actually share with you what had happened or what I had done. And the reality is that I was trying to manage 2 different calendars, and it was driving me up a wall. I was trying to manage my work calendar, which is packed to capacity on any given day, along with the personal endeavors that I've been pursuing in the last 2 years. So for example, I've been doing a lot more speaking engagements in recent times, and I was trying to manage those 2 calendars independently. And guys, I will say to you, that was driving me up a wall. I was very disorganized and feeling out of sorts, which is not my norm. But from the time those words were shared with me, I literally started to transform the way I was doing things. And that was just a very small change that really brought a big result. I was able to recenter and from just that small change. And it's very important that you understand that when you bring a degree of discipline to your life, it really has an impact on your mood and on your energy. So you have to be very intentional to put the structures in place that can help you. There's as a John Maxwell coach, I am very big on John Maxwell books, and he has a book called the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And in this book, one of the laws is called the law of trade-offs. And I will share with you that as you continue to progress along this journey to create the discipline that you need to have to achieve the particular goal, you are going to have to make some personal trade-offs. And what do I mean by that? There's certain things you're going to have to give up to be able to achieve the level of success, to be able to meet the timelines, to be able to balance work and school, which can get very, very crazy from time to time. You're literally going to have to put the structure in place, but putting that structure that helps you will require you to give up some things from time to time. I can tell you that when I made the decision to write my book, I had to give up my love and my joy and what I consider to be my distressor of watching TV series. Like I literally, and we were in the heart of a lockdown, so the default after work, after 12-hour, 14-hour days was to watch TV. I had to give that up for the 6 months that I was spending writing the book. All right. It is very important, and I will just, before moving from this particular point, share with you that procrastination is detrimental to your growth. So if you are someone that is considered someone that waits at the last minute to push to get something done, or to start an assignment, or to start your research, I'm telling you right now, this is a habit really want to scale back from. You want to hold yourself accountable by setting some timelines, setting some structure, and being able to stick to those things so that you are in a position to do better and ease some of the stress that you're bringing to yourself by taking that last minute kind of thrust to get things done, or that approach to get things done. I will also share with you, just from a personal perspective, like me, with the schedule that I keep, if I do not have packed lunches, I am a mess, because I'm either going to have meal or I am going to eat junk. Whatever my team is eating, I'm going to say, grab me some. And therefore, that means that my diet is going to be off. So it is very, very important to set the structures that will help to support the kind of life that you want to pursue. And you know, there's this quote that says, if you are persistent, you will be able to get it, but if you are consistent, you will be able to keep it. And that is so when we're talking about discipline and when we're in pursuit of our goals. So I just wanted to share that. This model, and I'm hoping that the presentation will be shared with you, but this is something that I came across while reading a book earlier this year, and I wanted to share it with you because I treat it as a monthly check-in. I decided to include it here as a weekly check-in, but it really forces you to reflect, and reflection is very good for the soul. And it essentially says, this is my number one priority this week. This would be this month, or I want to do more of. And again, you're doing this within a period. So what do you want to do more of within that period? What do you want to do less of? What do you want to start? And what do you want to stop doing altogether? I think it's Jim Collins that speaks about the importance of having a stop doing list. You know, we always have to-do lists, but it's very important that we also have a stop doing list in terms of bringing some accountability and some structure to our lives and our ability to achieve our goals. So I wanted to share that with you. And then we move on to embracing the pause, and what that means in terms of allowing us the time that is necessary to not only refresh and renew, but to refocus, and realizing that a pause does not mean that you are failing. A pause actually is you're being strategic, because you're listening to your body. You're recognizing that if I defer this pause any longer, it's going to be detrimental in the long term. So it's actually being strategic, positioning yourself strategically, setting yourself up for a win later by taking a short-term pause. And I'll share this story with you. Some of you may have heard the story of the lumberjacks before. There were two lumberjacks in a field, and they both started work at the same time. They finished work at the same time, but there was one difference, and that there was one that used to leave around noon every single day. Every day for months, he would leave work around noon and leave the other lumberjack just going at it. And at the end of each day, the lumberjack that left for an hour actually produced more wood than the lumberjack that stayed on the job. And after months, the lumberjack that wasn't producing at the same level, he said to the guy, you know, how are you doing this? How is you are producing so much more wood than I am when you're leaving? We're coming the same time, you're leaving at the same time as me, yet you are going for an hour. So in terms of time, I am putting in more time than you. And the lumberjack looked at him and said, oh, that's easy. I leave for an hour to sharpen my saw because I've learned over time that it actually works better when I do that. And to me, that in itself lesson for each and every one of us, because society has misled us to believe that we always have to be switched on if we are going to be successful. And I'm telling you now that a few years ago, I realized that that's a myth. And now I am very, very intentional about taking my pauses. I am very intentional because I have been a victim of burnout. I understand firsthand what burnout feels like. And I will tell you this now, it is very hard to recover from a state of burnout. You never or catch back yourself completely. So you have to be intentional pauses, because that is the only way. So it's not about taking long breaks. I mean, I think life is structured for us to do that anymore, but it's really about knowing your body, listening to your body, understanding the signs, and also knowing, like for someone like me, when I get very tired, I get very agitated very quickly. So it's knowing when those signs are kicking in that you understand you have to make the conscious decision, because remember, we're now doing everything with intentionality. We're going to pause, we're going to pull ourselves back, because we can tell that we are going down a path that will be detrimental, maybe in the short term, but in the longer term. So I'm going to encourage you to never, ever underestimate the power of a pause. It helps to sharpen the mind. It helps to bring you clarity. It helps you to the power, there's power in reflection, because it helps you sometimes maybe feeling like I failed or I'm not doing as good as I should, but reflection allows you to look back. And in looking back, you can actually see that you have been progressing, and you have been progressing well. It also allows you that time out, that time to allow your body and your mind to recalibrate so that they could start to become in sync. And I say to you, as someone that always is on the go, literally, that because of the last 2 years of me being very intentional to pause, because working home, working in the midst of COVID, building new strategies in the midst of COVID, all these things compounded, and also pursuing some of my personal endeavors, to some of the things that I've been rolling out. These are all things that require me to be able to have the kind of discipline and structures that allow me to do them. But they all take time. And they all take energy. So it is very important that I know when to pause. And I'm just encouraging you guys today to understand that stepping back when needed is not a failure. It is actually a strategy, right? And a very good strategy as well, because the kind of think clarity in your thoughts and the insights that you have from just taking a simple break makes a huge difference to your progress. And I just wanted to share with you, it is important to be purposeful with your self-care routine. Again, these are things that before I would just do ad hoc. Now, these are things that are integrated into life for me, because I'm about blending my life. I'm no longer, maybe I'll book an appointment here for the spa. No, these are now part of the routine, because I've learned that I need them in my life. I need those few minutes when I'm away from family, when I'm away from everybody else, and I could just sit there and maybe talk to a complete stranger, or just sit there and be quiet with my thoughts. So it is very important that you're intentionally scheduling your self-care routines. It's also important that you incorporate something that you love to do in your life, because and one of my personal mantras is you gotta love what you do. And I say that because if you don't have that one thing you can turn to, it makes it absolutely difficult, because everything else in your life is probably very intense or very stressful, or persons are constantly tugging at you. So it's important that you have that one thing that you can go to, that you can actually feel a sense of help you to feel refreshed and renewed just because it's something that you've enjoyed doing, and that would vary from person to person. It's also important that you give yourself some grace. I cannot emphasize this enough. Sometimes we are too ourselves, and therefore this is where the sense of failure, the sense of not making as much progress, this is also where you start to compare yourself to others. These are all things and which off your mood, which can impact your performance in the workplace, impact your performance in your studies. So it's just really important that you give yourself space, because you deserve to take care of you. The other really important one is me time. This is priceless, because this is where you get to spend time with yourself and understand what is it that is driving you. It goes back to your purpose. You're able to reassess yourself and say, am I still doing this because people expect me to do this, or is this still part of my heart? And I said to you guys earlier that everything I do from a place of heart. So it's really important to understand, but you could only do that if you make time for yourself. A lot of these techniques are things that I've started to integrate in my life, and I wish someone had said these things to me earlier in my career, because I can guarantee you that they probably would have saved me a lot of the stress that I've endured my career and in this pursuit of reaching a certain level in business. I also want to encourage you to set some boundaries, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it is your colleagues, but also for yourself. Because sometimes we allow persons to consume us, we allow things to consume us, we allow distractions to get in, things that we don't always have to be a part of. I was listening to a motivational video the other day by Steve Harvey, and I mean, even at his level, he was saying his phone goes crazy the entire day, and he realized it was stressing him out, and he literally sat with his phone and created a favorites list. And if you're not on that favorites list, you get a return call. The only calls that come through to him immediately are persons on that favorites list. And I have to tell you, last week I was on holiday and I was off the grid, and I saw my phone ringing and I looked at it, and once it was not on my favorites list, I put it back down. And that was the first time I ever felt so empowered while I was actually having a pause. So it is very important that you set yourself some boundaries, but also have boundaries for the persons that are clawing away at your time as well, especially because you're at a stage in your journey where you're studying. It is very, very important also to practice gratitude, guys, and I can't emphasize this enough, because the more grateful you are, the more you align yourself for success, the more you start to be attracted to persons that are like-minded, that can really help you throughout this journey. And I always say to my daughter, gratitude is a must. You have to be thankful for where you are in the journey, and you have to be thankful for the people that are supporting you this journey. So it is very, very important. And I can't not talk about the other areas of our lives that we have to make sure we have some degree of control over, which is sleep, importance in terms of exercise, making sure we find time. And I don't do any big heavy exercising, I will share that with you, but that's because I have an underlying issue that prevents me from doing so. But it's things like walking casually can also be seen as exercise. Something that I love to take a morning walk, because that helps to clear my mind. And we spoke about some diet before, and for me, it's packed lunches or no lunch, because putting junk in my body that's the fastest way for me to feel fatigue. So it's very important that you embrace the power of pause. And I wanted to also share with you that while you are in that state of mind where you have made a conscious decision to pause, these are some questions to ask yourself in those moments, because it's always about recalibration. It's always about making sure that what you're doing still has still connected to a greater purpose. So some of the questions, these 5 questions: what is the most fulfilling thing to me right now? That's something that you should ask yourself from time to time, because you want to ensure that you're not just pursuing success, but you're pursuing fulfillment. That is very important on this journey of work-life blend. Also, what aspect of my life do I wish to expand in order to increase my chances at success? So you're pursuing your accounting designation. Great. That's an area that you've made a conscious decision to expand as you're pursuing the success. But just always remember that life is, the career is very important. But if you have personal dreams as well, there's also the opportunity to integrate and ensure that you're able to achieve that work-life blend that we're talking about today. Where can I do better? Where must I do better? That's a very important one, very reflective question, but you've got to be honest with yourself when you're asking yourself these questions. Am I being too hard on myself? Am I giving myself enough grace? These are all very important self-coaching questions that I would encourage you to ask yourself from time to time, because you don't just want to be doing things for the sake of doing it. You want to be able to connect with what you're doing. And this is a quote, my absolute favorite quote of all times. It has kept me very consistent through the years. And it basically says, failure will never overtake me if my determination to succeed is strong enough. And that's by Og Mandino. I just find that there's so much power and much motivation in those few words. And that's the end of my presentation. For you this evening, I just want to encourage you to stay connected. I'm very active on social channels, and that's tied to the fact that I absolutely love to mentor. So I'm usually either on LinkedIn. You can follow me, Allison Brown Ellis. My professional development blog, I try to produce at least 1 article a month, and I'm very active on Instagram. So not the traditional CEO, definitely someone that is out here to offer inspiration to all of our career professionals. And our moderator would have referenced my book, Life Lessons: A Purpose-Driven Leadership Journey. For orders, also available on Amazon and Amazon Kindle, and as well as if you have a corporate order, you could send that through to AllisonBrownEllis@gmail.com. So I am available for any questions that you may have, and I trust that you will continue to enjoy your journey. It will not always be an easy road, but if you could connect it with a purpose, the concepts that I've just shared with you in terms of paid, your purpose, your attitude, being intentional, bringing some discipline to your life, and embracing the pause, I have no doubts that you will set yourself up for a much greater work-life blend. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, thank you so much, Allison, for an insightful presentation. So I do agree that discipline is one of the key elements that everyone has to master. I do hope that the students follow your paid approach. As Betty Raffet in the chat would have indicated, that if everyone listens to and follow the words of wisdom and advice you shared, they'd definitely be guaranteed success. And I do agree. So we now open the floor to the Q&A session. So we begin by answering the questions submitted in the Q&A box. So as a reminder, you can still submit the questions through the Q&A box. And if you would like to ask a question verbally, please raise your hand and you will be unmuted. So if anyone has a questions, now is your chance. We see a hand raised by Lisa Joseph. Lisa, you can go ahead and pose your question. Okay, I guess Lisa doesn't have any questions. Right, so if anyone has any questions for Alison, you can go right ahead and ask the questions via chat, or you can raise your hands to indicate that you're asking a question. All right, with no further questions for Alison, just want to say thank you, Alison, for your insight to the work-life balance. So we will now take a break for 15 minutes. So the conference will continue at 7:15 with the second session entitled Financial Planning, Invest in Your Future.
Hi there, I am Richard Kennedy, Chief Operations Officer of the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We are indeed delighted to join with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Barbados to celebrate this year's Accountants Week. We have seen how our nation has been uprooted and faced with adverse economic conditions in a way none of us could have anticipated. However, our nation is resilient, and as the island's largest indigenous financial institution, we aim to contribute to the rebuilding of the well-being of our members and the communities we serve. We consider our members to be our family, and not only seek to be their financial partner, but we continue to empower generations of Barbadians by providing meaningful connections for people of all walks of life, forging unforgettable relationships, and fostering unbreakable bonds through every stage of life, from the cradle to retirement. In addition to providing quality services, competitive financing and investment solutions, we believe in the importance of supplying tools to help Barbadians uplift and empower themselves through financial literacy, categorical grants, charitable donations, and sponsoring our community's initiatives. Continuing to be a source of hope and comfort in unprecedented times such as these. Exemplifying the theme of this year's Accountants Week, purpose, passion, possibilities, Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited provides guidance for intentional paths for our members to walk in their purpose, resources to fulfill their passions and dreams, and support through education and financial provisions to birth endless possibilities. We continue to solidify our commitment to the economic growth of Barbados by offering financial services to people of all ages and classes, leveraging our ethos of educating and empowering persons in the area of their finances, providing support to individuals, micro, small, and medium enterprises, and corporates through Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited and its subsidiaries. It is indeed our pleasure to forge this new partnership with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Barbados. We look forward to building a strong relationship with them in the future, and we wish them an exciting and successful Accountants Week 2021. Hi there, I am Richard Kennedy, Chief Operations Officer of the Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited. We are indeed delighted to join with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Barbados to celebrate this year's Accountants Week. We have seen how our nation has been uprooted and faced with adverse economic conditions in a way none of us could have anticipated. However, our nation is resilient, and as the island's largest indigenous financial institution, we aim to contribute to the rebuilding of the well-being of our members and the communities we serve. We consider our members to be our family, and not only seek to be their financial partner, but we continue to empower generations of Barbadians by providing meaningful connections for people of all walks of life, forging unforgettable relationships, and fostering unbreakable bonds through every stage of life, from the cradle to retirement. In addition to providing quality services, competitive financing and investment solutions, we believe in the importance of supplying tools to help Barbadians uplift and empower themselves through financial literacy, categorical grants, charitable donations, and sponsoring our community's initiatives. Continuing to be a source of hope and comfort in unprecedented times such as these. Exemplifying the theme of this year's Accountants Week, purpose, passion, possibilities, Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited provides guidance for intentional paths for our members to walk in their purpose, resources to fulfill their passions and dreams, and support through education and financial provisions to birth endless possibilities. We continue to solidify our commitment to the economic growth of Barbados by offering financial services to people of all ages and classes, leveraging our ethos of educating and empowering persons in the area of their finances, providing support to individuals, micro, small, and medium enterprises, and corporates through Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union Limited and its subsidiaries. It is indeed our pleasure to forge this new partnership with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Barbados. We look forward to building a strong relationship with them in the future, and we wish them an exciting and successful Accountants Week 2021.
All right, so welcome back to the second portion of tonight's conference. So we will continue with the financial planning, investing your financial future portion. This will be conducted by Ms. Nikita Gibson. Nikita Gibson is the Vice President of the Clarity Life Insurance Limited and a partner at Castalia Consulting Inc., companies registered in Barbados. Her experience ranges the financial and insurance industries where she manages the expectations of shareholders, directors, and clients. Nikita has a Bachelor of Science First Class Honors in Mathematics and Economics from the University of the West Indies, KFL campus, and a Master of Science in Actuarial Science from the Harriet Watt University. She is an Associate Actuary with the Society of Actuaries and the Caribbean Actuarial Association. In her role at Clarity Life, Nikita develops bespoke life insurance solutions for high net worth individuals across the globe for purposes such as generational wealth, transfer, and asset protection. So in her role at Castalia and as a risk management professional, she proactively explores new industry developments and impacts, facilitating innovative responses to assist clients in quantitative risk management solutions. So Nikita has facilitated various training sessions across the region and has been asked to present in areas of financial health, wealth, and investments for a range of individuals, business, and associations. So without further ado, I'd just like to welcome Ms. Nikita Gibson today. Nikita.
Good evening. Thank you very much for that introduction. Thanks to ICAB for having me this evening and for all of you for attending this year's conference. So we have quite a bit to get through tonight. So we're just going to jump on in to exactly what we're covering. Financial planning, investing in your future. Okay, so here we go. Here's just a basic list of what we're going to go through tonight. Investing in your future. What are life cycles? What are some of the life goals you may or may not have? Putting it all together, a summary, and then of course, we're going to close off with some tips. So let's get started with the first session. What does it mean to invest? We're going to start this evening, first of all, by taking a poll. So the first poll for tonight, the question is, what does invest in your future mean for you? So we're going to take a quick minute and do this poll, and then I'm just going to share the summary results with you. Just a few more seconds left to take the poll, and then we're going to get the results. Are the results in now for the poll?
Yes, we do have the results, Nikita.
Okay.
So 16% of the attendees voted for the first choice, which is building and investing in portfolio, with 11% allocated to the third choice, building on your career, qualifying further. And 29% of the attendees voted improving your financial health to early retire. And 3% of the attendees voted for the becoming an entrepreneur and reaching your optimal work-life balance. With the final option, all of the above, 39% of the attendees voted.
Okay, so all of the above is clearly our most popular option. So all of those things are different ways in which you can take a look at what does investing in your future really looks like, okay? So some of you would have mentioned career, obviously wanting to complete your qualifications as accountants or otherwise. Now, the first step in investing in your professional life is really and truly knowing the difference between a job and a career, okay? So a job is simply what you do to make money, whereas a career is what you're really passionate about, which in turn makes you money. So understanding the difference is how you can actually build your future career. Now, one of the options was family. So what about a spouse? Maybe you want to plan for a wedding, home, and that also includes retirement. There's kids, private school versus public school, lessons, hobbies, college. What about your elderly parents? Planning for them in terms of needing home care, nursing home, or maybe even just medical. What about planning for the next generation? And the next generation doesn't just stop at your kids, but also your grandkids and great-grandkids. What about starting the next generation off debt-free? Or maybe there's some wealth to transfer in some form or fashion, right? Next, we have, what does your future self really look like? Some of you mentioned perhaps being an entrepreneur. You have a career change in there. You also have career progression, which is qualifying. And then there's the hybrid life. You may decide to stay in your profession while also being an entrepreneur. And of course, what does the optimal work-life balance look like? Allison would have just covered that in her session as well. And finally, financial security. Are those things that you see for your future self? So The first thing we're going to do before we really get into financial planning is identifying your life season. Sorry, once you hear the drum roll, it means we're taking another poll. So what life cycle are you currently in? Okay, and just so it's clear, I've given you 6 options. Your early adult transition in that sweet spot. You're now entering the adult world between 22 and 28. You're at the age 30 transition, 28 to 33. The settling down period, 33 to 40. The midlife transition, 40 to 45, and late adulthood, 60 plus. So which life are you in? You have a couple seconds to complete that poll, just to get an idea of the age range of our audience as we dive into the various life cycles and what that can mean for our financial planning. And just a caveat that I would add here, that although the things I will share with you tonight, I will point out the different financial goals or aspirations you should have for the different life cycles that you're in, it does not mean that if you have not done these things, that it's too late for you to do them, okay? It's never too late and it's never too early to start. So let's just get those poll results. Are the results ready now?
Yes, the results are in with 26% of the attendees entering the adult world transition 22 to 28. There are 10% of the attendees who are in the early adult transition. 23% of the attendees are in the age 30 transition. 21% in the settling down period transition, 33 to 40. 15% in the midlife transition, and 5% in the late adulthood transition.
Okay, so we have a wide audience tonight as it relates to age. So we're going to definitely look at different financial planning depending on which life cycle you're in, okay? And these are just examples that we're going to go through as we go through this presentation. So the first life cycle, right? Or rather, the first thing you need to do is identify your life season. And why is this important? So knowing where you are in life helps you to know where you need to be and how to get there. Now, your current life season is how you plan for the next version of you, okay? So let's look at the early adult transition. For those persons 17 to 22, this is generally, where you transition to adult responsibilities. It's that little sweet area between study and work where in my time, my biggest worry was what's the next campus fete, but COVID-19 world is the next socially distant, safe zone line, right? Whatever that may look like now. And then we have the entering the adult world between 22 and 28. Now, this is where you get your first look into being an adult. You buy your first professional wardrobe. For gents, maybe your first set of your first suit. For ladies, I know the first time I bought my first professional suit or dress, I felt very excited about it. And it was within this age range, 22 to 28. Now, in this season, these are the things that you should invest in for your future, okay? You should make sure you have health insurance, life insurance. You should set up an emergency fund, and you should set up a retirement fund, and of course, invest in yourself. And investing in yourself is professional courses, certificates, or postgraduate degrees. And in this case, it will be your professional qualifications, right? Now, for the age 30 transition, generally by then you kind of have an idea of how adulting goes. You start thinking about building a home, starting a family, what career moves. Maybe by then you've completed your qualifications, your professional designation, and you're ready for that first management role or executive role. So in this season, you should really be looking to plan for home ownership, family, and investing, and of course retirement planning. Now, when it comes to the settling down period, by now you pretty much have an idea of what the rhythm of life is going to be, and you're in it for the long haul, right? So by this season, you know what type of retirement you want. You know you want to travel once a year. Maybe you want to have a vacation home or timeshare. Maybe you've decided that in the event that your health deteriorates, that you might want to be in a nursing home or maybe have at-home care. Now, you need to ensure that your goals are in line with your financial ability, your goals to your income. That's very important. So as much as I would like, for example, for my retirement to include flying around on a private jet, my current financial abilities might not allow for that. Now, expanding your financial capabilities, so it's investing, creating a business, and of course, generating more than one source of income. I think that we've all definitely learned that, particularly in this pandemic. Now, we have the midlife transition. This is when people are generally focused on their career, money management, family, and future. So these things are already grounded for most people by this transition point. And what you're now looking for is to ensure that the college fund is set up for the kids. You have life insurance in place to cover your family in case for when you die, not for in case you die, when you die. Retirement planning is well on its way, and you're progressing towards, you have the next 20 to 25 years to plan. Your emergency fund, you already have a certain amount of months of salary set aside in your emergency fund, and you might just be adding on to that. And of course, you're actively investing in some form or fashion, okay? Then we have the late adulthood, which is where we all kind of want to end up. We're ready for retirement. We are now living the life that we have worked hard to save towards, okay? So let's take a look at what does financial planning really mean and putting it all together, okay? This is your last poll, and it's going to be a very quick one. Have you ever created a financial plan for yourself? That's a yes or no question. I'm just going to give you all of 10 seconds to answer that poll. And this is a very important question to ask yourself. And if you've never created a financial plan for yourself, after this presentation, I hope that you will. And I personally create a financial plan for myself for each year. So I'm actually in the process now of creating my 2022 financial plan so that once December kicks off, I'm ready to go. January 1, I am good to go for what I need to do. Can you share the results of the poll, please?
Sure. So we have 61% of the attendees voting yes, whereas the remaining 39 voted no.
Okay, thank you very much. So 39, by the time we reach 8:15, I would like to think that tomorrow you've added something to your calendar that says financial planning, creating a financial plan. So what exactly is that, right? Now, it's evaluating your current position to plan for your future financial state. Personally, I like the definition that it's a roadmap showing what is your current cash flow and what's your ideal cash flow and all the steps in between, right? How do we actually reach there? So first of all, where are you now? What are your current income streams? What are your expenses, assets, liabilities, and more importantly, what's your net worth? So when we just take a look into those things, you take a look, what are my income streams? When do I expect this money to come in, and how much is this money that's coming in? Investing, is it dividends? Is it coupons? Is it just interest income of some kind? Rental income, maybe you have a business and your salary. What about your fixed expenses? Now, these are the things that are generally a fixed amount and a fixed frequency. So you have your car loans or any other loans, your insurance premium, your rent, your mortgage, etc. Right? Now your variable expenses now, these are the things where they fluctuate based on the amount that you use. So you use more gas in your car or at your home, obviously your bill is higher, right? So these are variable expenses. Now we take a look at what are discretionary expenses, and this is particularly the area where people need to cut back. This is the first area of expenses. Wherever you need to budget, this is where you do it. So maybe we stop going to the spa and we do it every other month instead of every month. Obviously taking into mind what Alison would have shared with us, knowing that we still need to take time for ourselves. But it's about finding the balance with your finances and what your responsibilities are. We always have to make sure that we pay for what we need. And then the things that we want, we then make a decision about, can I do this now or not? Okay? So, knowing your current state includes knowing your assets and your liabilities. So when you start off a financial plan, so for those 39% of persons, all right, these are the things that you need to list off. And then when you've listed them off, how much funds are in each of them? So how much is in your savings accounts? All of them. Your emergency fund, your retirement plan, your life insurance, etc. What's the value of your car, your house, your land, or any other property? Once you have that information, then we're going to add on what liabilities you have. And all of this is important before you even start planning, how do I spend my money? So what's my rent? What's my mortgage? How much is my car loan or student loan? Do I have a credit card debt or any other loan? Now, once we know what our income is, what our expenses are, what are the value of our assets, and what are our liabilities, we can now really start to financially plan and set our goals, set our timelines, and get on the way, okay? So, putting that together, what about our net worth, right? I recommend these 5 measures for financial health. The first one being your net worth. Now, it's just simple, your assets minus your liabilities, right? And this is a very simple example. You have $10,000 on the bank, $30,000 in the retirement fund. Your house is valued at $300,000, but you owe $15,000 in student loans and $275,000 on your mortgage. That your net worth is $50,000. Now, as accountants or budgeting accountants, you would know that your assets must always or should always be greater than your liabilities, which means that your net worth is in the positive. So your financial health checklist 1. Your spending ratio. Now, one of the recommended spending ratios is the 50-30-20 rule, right? 50% to your needs, all your debts are included in there, 30% to your wants, and 20% to your savings. Now, the question is, when you match up your ratio to that, how far off are you, okay? Now, your debt to income ratio, a manageable or healthy ratio is 30% or less. Savings and investments, do you have any? You know, how much are they and what are they worth? And your income growth, you know, as you obviously progress within your profession, you know, are you going to make more money? Are you going to become more senior? And what does that income growth possibly look like? Okay, so let's take a look at goals. We're going to first categorize goals into short, intermediate, and long term. Now, short term is pretty simple, the next 12 months, right? Maybe you want to pay off that credit card in the next 12 months, debt consolidation, or you're working on building up your emergency fund and you've identified that I want to reach X goal within the next 12 months. Or maybe you just want to invest a certain amount within your retirement fund or just in your investment portfolio on a whole. So what about intermediate? Within the next 1 to 5 years, right? So maybe you're looking to own your own home, you want to purchase land, or maybe you've purchased land and you're now looking to build in the next 1 to 5 years. Now you need to set aside your legal fees, valuation fees, loan fees, fees for the QS, and all your furniture and appliances that you will need, all right? So let's plan for that. What about your emergency fund? Maybe you want to increase that by an additional month or 2. And identify and execute how to generate passive income or additional income. Now that's something you might put in your intermediate term goal because right now you're not sure how you're going to create passive income, but you know you want to. So what about long-term goals for the next 5+ years? You know, you may or may not have kids now, so that might be, you know, a goal, a long-term goal you might have to set aside a college fund. What about your retirement fund? And that's something that's always a part of your goals. Short, intermediate, and long term. And maybe by then you want to increase your emergency fund by an additional 3 to 6 months of your salary. So what tools do we need to reach our goals, right? The first thing we did was we identified our life season. Next thing we did was to identify what was our current state and then what our goals are. And for each goal, what you need to do is identify what's my goal, how much does it cost, and what's the timeline for me to reach this goal. And based on that information and based on my disposable income and my budget, what can I afford to go towards my goal? And just note that when you first write it all down on paper, it may seem a little bit overwhelming. It may seem as though it's not possible. And all you need to do sometimes is to just adjust your timeline or adjust the amount that you're looking for, right? Make sure it's always realistic. That's important. Because setting a goal where you know your net salary at the end of the month is $4,000, but at the end of the year you want to be able to save $100,000. So unless you have an investment vehicle where you know you're going to get a certain interest rate to reach that $100,000 mark, based on your net salary, it's not a realistic goal. So the question becomes, how do you invest in your future? Okay. Last and final poll, What do you currently hold in your financial portfolio? Is it your savings account, checking account? Do you have local or international investments, securities? Do you have local or international real estate? Do you have any equity? Do you any fixed income? Anything at all? You can just add to that. What about a pension plan, a company pension plan, individual pension plan, or maybe an RRSP, right? So take those and just let us see what your results are as it relates to what do you currently hold in your financial portfolio. Do we have the poll results ready?
Yes, we do have the results. So for the first option, savings account, 85% of the attendees selected that option. The checking account, 61%. Dedicated emergency fund, 33% of persons selected that option. The life insurance, 82% selected that option. The RRSP, 55% selected that option. The local real estate, 33%. International real estate, 3%. Local investments in any securities, 24%. And international investments, any securities, 12%.
Okay, not bad numbers. I'm very glad to hear none of them were 0%. So let's take a look into what does it mean to invest in your future, right? Now, it's all about identifying how you want your life to be and putting the steps in place for the future. Now, the future you could be literally 5 minutes from now, next week, 30 years from now, or 5 years from now, right? So we're going to try to look at how do you invest in that future you. First thing we're going to take a look at, and we're just going to go through the same list of what you would have used in your poll. Savings and checking accounts, right? Now, you should have at least one main savings account, right? All your short-term goals or intermediate goals, long-term goals should be saved in that account. It should be separate and distinct from your emergency savings. However, I'm going to make a recommendation here as we go along for each type of investment in your portfolio. Pay yourself with the same dedication as you do bills. So my other recommendation is to set up 3 savings accounts, one for each type of goal. So one for your short term, one for your intermediate, and one for your long-term goals, right? And you should try to aim to save at least 20% of your salary, split between the 3 accounts, but based on your financial plan. And remember to diversify where you save. And I also know that, you know, obviously we're not getting as high interest rates now as before, but remember there's a purpose and reason behind your savings account for you, right? A checking account, you should have at least one. And to be honest, you only really need one. And this is for your everyday spending, your bills, you swipe to go to lunch, you pay your water bill, anything in the sort, you go to the supermarket, that's what your checking account is for. So my recommendation there is to set up a checking account which incurs no monthly fees, and each month transfer the amount that's needed for your fixed, variable, and discretionary expenses. Okay? So that's the 2 recommendations as it relates to bank accounts. And the reason for that is separation of all your spending helps you to be able to focus and see what you're doing and when you're doing it, and identify which account is for which, okay? So we're going to do some quick examples as we go along. So this person has a net salary of Barbados 10,000. These are just random numbers, folks. The savings recommendation is 20%, so they're going to try to save 2,000. Their short-term goal is to travel in the next 12 months. It costs $4,000. They want to purchase the tickets in the next 8 months, so that requires $500 a month. Their intermediate goal is to purchase land for real estate investing in 2 years' time. The legal and other fees total $6,300. They need these fees to be available in the next 18 months. That's going to be Barbados $350 per month. And the long-term goal is to build townhouses or apartments on the land that's purchased in 5 years' time. The legal expenses, they're expecting that to be about $54,000. So they're setting aside $1,000 per month. So when we start to break this down, I'm just going to put this in a diagram for you so it's just easier to see. So this is what this person, they set up their 3 savings accounts and their checking account for all their other expenses, right? Okay, so let's take a look at what this really means here. Your emergency fund is break the glass in case of an emergency. That's what it's for, and that's the only thing it should be treated for. If we didn't learn this lesson before, I think that COVID, the Hurricane Elsa, the Soufriere volcano have definitely taught us that hard lesson. It's better to be prepared for the unexpected. And of course, they added the cherry on top, Murphy's Law. Everything that could possibly go around this year, I know for a lot of persons have definitely felt as though it's gone wrong, okay? So that's where an emergency fund comes in. So my recommendation for an emergency fund is to set up that fund for at least 6 months of your gross salary. And most persons tell you net salary, which is fine, that's great. But your gross salary gives you a little bit more of a wiggle room when it comes to an emergency that arises. Now, the ultimate aim is to reach 12 or more months of your salary in your emergency fund. But we'll start with a 6-month goal, and we're going to work towards it over the short, intermediate, and long-term periods. Now, your emergency fund is for if you lose your job. It allows you to be able to live for the next 6+ months while you job hunt. Maybe you, your parents, or your kids fall ill, and it's supposed to cover the percentage that's not covered by health insurance because all of you have health insurance. And I'm going to stick that, and that's not a poll, but I'm hoping that all of you have health insurance. Unforeseen expenses. Hurricane Elsa definitely left us with some home repairs to be done, and maybe the ash fall, maybe then impacted your car, and that's where your emergency fund comes in. Every time you use that emergency fund, you should always ensure that you replenish it, okay? So this person has a goal of saving 1.5 months of their salary in the next 12 months. So they're going to set aside $12.50 Barbados in their emergency fund every month. So far, we have 3 savings accounts, a checking for all of our expenses, and an emergency fund that we set up, right? Now, life insurance, and I'm glad to hear that so many of you have insurance. It's a good investment and security tool, but it's about understanding how you use insurance in order for it to be an investment, right? So traditionally, you pay a premium, you are insured for a specific sum insured or death benefit. When you die, your named beneficiaries receive a lump sum payout on your life. Now, as an investment, there are 2 different types of insurance policies that work well for that option, an endowment and universal life. Tonight, I'm just going to focus predominantly on endowment, but I just wanted to mention universal life to you. So my recommendation for life insurance is to get at least 1 endowment policy, either an endowment at age 55, at age 65, or age 70, or maybe a combination thereof, right? Now, for your kids, you can consider getting an endowment for 15 years, and you can get that when they're born, and in 15 years' time, when they reach the age of 15, 16, give or take, that they will have some funds there for them to go to college. Alternatively, is to get a life paid-up policy and add an endowment as a rider. Now, a life paid-up policy sounds exactly as the name suggests. You pay your premiums for your entire life, you pay your premiums up until a specific point or age. So let's say it's a life paid up at age 65. You pay that premium all the way to age 65, but you have insurance coverage for your lifetime. And this is an important policy to have. So if you have an endowment, I would recommend that persons get a whole life separately or get a life paid up, because it means that once you reach age 65, you no longer pay premiums, but for the remainder of your lifetime, you are covered. And what that means is, for retirement, you will generally retire at age 65. You will no longer have that expense of paying that premium, but you will have the life coverage, okay? And I believe that Sagicor is actually offering right now a policy that allows you to add an endowment as a rider, but check with your agent to find out. Now, an endowment is a type of policy that is designed to give a lump sum payout at a specific term or age or on death. So we're going to take the example of an endowment at age 65. So as the name suggests, it's going to give you a payout at age 65 or on death. So how does this really work? If you die before age 65, your beneficiaries get the lump sum payout. That's the norm. And if you live to age 65, you get the actual payout, and it's just in time for retirement, which is one of the reasons why life insurance can be commingled with your retirement planning and commingled with your investments. This is just a little bit about universal life, but I'm not going to go through that tonight because it's not something that's readily available in Barbados. I think there's only one carrier who offers that, and I'm not sure if they're necessarily offering that anymore in the market. So what are the real benefits of life insurance, right? It provides financial security for your family and a peace of mind to you to know that they're covered in the event of your death. Right? And it can be used as creditor insurance. So instead of having to take out additional creditor insurance when you're getting a mortgage, if you have a life insurance policy now that covers your mortgage, you can actually assign your financial institution to that policy. Okay? So now this person is at the point where they have insurance. So we did up to emergency fund. So this person, they want to buy a family home, that's $550,000. They want to do a real estate investment, that's what they're choosing as their investment, and that's going to cost them $800,000. So in total, they need $1.35 million in some insured or death benefit. This endowment policy, for example, may cost them $1,000. So now we're up to $1,000, right? Now we're on to pensions. Now, this is something that I'm sure we're all counting down to the end of our 9 to 5, right? But how do we effectively plan for and invest for the type of retirement we want? Before you can invest in your retirement, you need to identify when you want to retire. And just note that the pensionable age in Barbados is 67. However, the NIS allows you to early retirement is 60, but obviously that is for your government pension. If you wanted to retire before then, you can, but make sure you have the means to. So what do you want to do when you retire? Travel, play golf, just stay at home and chillax, maybe be involved in a charitable organization. Make sure that you identify a healthcare plan for retirement. One of the things that happens when we age is that we get more and more medical challenges. And this is something that I always remind people. If you are part of a company health plan, when you retire or when you leave that company, you will no longer have that coverage, okay? For persons who retire within their company, I think you get that coverage sometimes for an additional 6 to 12 months or slightly longer, but it's not for an overly long period. So I always encourage persons to get your own personal individual health plan so that you can have that for when you go past the retirement age. So for example, and I know I keep mentioning them, but I'm very familiar with their products. Sagicor offers their health insurance plan actually goes all the way up to age 95, obviously with some conditions associated with that. Okay, identify a family plan for retirement. How much does your desired retirement cost, and determine how much you can actually afford. You know, they say champagne mouth, mobby pockets, right? So the recommendation here is to set up a personal pension plan, right? And your aim is to pay the maximum contribution allowed in your company pension plan. And that's important. A lot of people don't read the fine print as it relates to your company pension plan. There is a maximum, and that means that there is more that you can put in so that you can have an additional pension coming from your company. Maybe for your pension, as you think about your pension, you decide that you may need nursing care in your old age. Now, this is a table that outlines what it costs now for nursing homes in Barbados, as well as at-home care from a nursing company currently, depending on what you decide upon, right? So now we've gotten to pensions, and now you're currently trying to decide, you currently pay $500 per month, but you want to increase that because you want to include possibly needing a nursing home. And so you might need a nursing home for 10 years. So based on that, and assuming that's a 5% interest rate there for flat interest rate for the next 10 years, that you need to put in an additional $1,100 per month. So now you're putting in for your pension, you're planning ahead for that as well. You're investing in your future self in case you need assistance. Now, here's something about investments you probably never thought of. You will probably never build wealth from your salary alone, unless you are making times your net worth after all your expenses, and those expenses are low. So again, get a high-paying job. Invest, start a business, or create passive income stream. And this is for building wealth, not necessarily being financially healthy. There's a difference between the two, okay? So the recommendation here is to make sure you personally research and educate yourself before pursuing any investment. And of course, check with a professional. One thing I always remind persons when you're investing is you can win or you can lose. And don't forget that part. All right. So we have a very quick video here that just shows you investing and what would have happened in the last financial crisis. Okay. So that video more or less was showing you what happened as persons watched the financial crisis in 2008 as markets plummeted across the world. Okay, so that's just a reminder that investing is a risk. The markets do fluctuate. They are volatile. They go up, they go down. And just remember as well that investing is not only limited to investing on a market. The easiest or the simplest form of investing is actually passive investment, and the simplest form of that is using your bank. And using your bank, gaining an interest rate on your bank is a form of investing, okay? So it doesn't matter if it's on the market, in the bank, in an insurance company, etc. There is a risk associated with it. So what you need to do is to assess what is your risk tolerance and your risk appetite. How much are you willing or okay losing? And that's a hard question for a lot of people to ask, right? Now, the first thing you want to do is to kind of get an idea on what your risk appetite is. What's your tolerance? Are you risk averse? Maybe you're not so willing to lose your money. You might want to use something like fixed deposits or bonds instead, or maybe even the same banks, etc. Someone who's risk neutral, very insensitive to risk, whether it goes up, goes down, you'll make your decision on your investments for other reasons outside of risk. And then there's a risk lover, someone who's willing to take the risk and earn higher returns for higher risk. Now, what are some investment options, right? We have the traditional ones. So fixed deposits, the boss bonds that were just issued, RSPs, mutual funds, etc. We have insurance, which we've spoken about. And then we also have the non-traditional. Locally, we have carry land. You have alternative energy, which is now becoming a very big market. And then, of course, the international markets. Now, when I say traditional versus non-traditional, I'm mostly talking about culturally within Barbados, because culturally, we are risk averse. We tend to like to put our money on the bank. We feel more comfortable with it. And if we look at our poll numbers, you can see that those were the banks were actually the ones that had the highest percentage of persons within their investment portfolio, right? So, but not necessarily that international markets are considered to be non-traditional. So investing. So this person now is adding investments. At some point in time in their long-term goals, they want to add real estate, right? They want to build 2 townhouses, and it's going to cost them $800,000. They expect to get rental income from each of $2,500. Now, what they've decided to do is to take this real estate investment a step further. So they're going to add solar panels to all the areas of the property, the carport, all the roofs, the storage buildings, whatever the case may be. It's going to cost them $93,000 additional to get 100 panels, and the system is going to produce just over 65,000 kilowatts per year. Now, the current rate from the Barbados Light and Power is 0.4475 per kilowatt. Now, based on this project and the amount of kilowatts that's going to be produced in this system, this project is now going to earn an additional $2,400 per month. That's on top of their $5,000 in rental income. So these are some of the things that you need to think about when it comes to investing. These are some of the things you need to think about when it comes to planning for your future. You know, the same can be applied to your home. So if you're building your home, maybe instead of just working for your home and paying your mortgage, let your home also work for you. Maybe you can just invest in some solar panels. You can take out a 10-year loan, for example, or pay with it in cash. And solar panels tend to have a life cycle of 20 years. So after that 10 years of repayment, your panels then work for you. And in some cases, even before the 10 years, right? So this person knows that this is going to result in a loan payment of $7,500 per month, but they're actually going to get income of $7,400 per month once the project is finished and gets up and going. Now, this amount of $7,500 is based on having corporate loan rates, because it's now a corporate loan given that it's a real estate investment or commercial investment, a commercial mortgage. So it's given 15 years, 6 years interest rate, and then after that, the income is all yours. So to reach this goal, this person decides, for my savings account number 3, I'm going to set aside an additional $1,000 in preparation for when I'm doing my house, because these townhouses, because I want to add solar panels to this, okay? So finding a balance, and this goes back to the presentation before mine, and I thank Allison for that. She definitely reminded me that I need to maybe recap my happy place. So finding a balance is key to your financial health. Extreme left or right is not good. It's not healthy. And I always tell people, do not overextend yourself. If you go to the bank and you qualify for a mortgage for $600,000, don't apply for a $600,000 mortgage. You never know how your financial circumstances may or may not change. More than one person in the household may lose their job and can't service the mortgage. All these are things that we kind of prepare ourselves just in case. And of course, that's where our emergency fund comes in, right? One thing I always tell people when it comes to finding a balance, I remember being in university, and many a nights we ate ramen, or we ate pasta and tuna, or pasta and something else. Now I might not eat pasta and tuna. I may eat it with mixed meat. However, I don't need to have steak or surf and turf or caviar every night. So you need to be able, again, to find a balance between what you have, what you need to achieve, and living and enjoying life. Okay, that's important. You know, your mental health goes hand in hand with your financial health. Okay, so here's a summary. No matter what your goal is, it all begins with a plan. Plan and let it come together, right? Identify your goals, your timeline, and the cost of the goals. Set your financial plan in line with your goals and start working towards it. So here I've outlined for you the different recommendations for the areas of investing in your future. So for your savings accounts, I recommend setting up 3 savings accounts, 1 for each goal type. Okay? Checking account, and just so it's clear, for that savings account, every month you should pay yourself the same way you pay your bills. Every month I pay all my bills and I pay myself. Then anything else comes after. Treat your savings like it's another debt or expense that is a fixed expense that you need to cover. Okay? The same goes to your emergency fund. Your checking account, that's for your everyday spending, everyday shopping. Everything comes out of there. That's not really the account where you're going to be following the balance as much. The balance is not going to be very high because all you're putting in there is what you need to get through the month. Your emergency fund, again, the first target is to reach 6 months, but of course we're looking to get to the 12+ months target, right? Life insurance, get at least 1 endowment policy. And if you have kids, this is just a consideration. You can always get an endowment for 15 years, and this allows you to be able, it gives you a head start on college, on funding for college, right? And of course, if something happens to you, then your kids are at least covered for that start into college, or maybe that start for a debt-free start to life. Now, pension plan. Set up a personal pension plan and try to aim towards contributing the maximum amount that's allowed under your company pension plan. And investing, research, educate yourself before you pursue any investments at all. and check with a professional as well, particularly if it's not an area that you are familiar with. Now, here are some tools to help you invest in your future. We spoke about financially invest in your future, your career, family. These are the apps that I use personally, except Kraken, and I'll explain that once I get there. So we have the Wallet app. It's a fantastic app for tracking your finances. You can set up all of your accounts in there. The account that you have for your cash, which will be your purse. So whatever I have in my purse, I have an account set up for that in Wallet app. For your 3 savings accounts, your checking account, your retirement fund, everything is set up in here. And as you get paid each month, you track all of your transactions. If I walk down to the gas station from my home and I buy a Coke, I put it into the app. Make sure that you track it, because knowing your financial health and knowing where your money is at any point in time is important and critical to you being able to properly financial plan. One thing that I kind of love and hate about the app is it does give you some reports to let you know, well, you're spending a little bit more in areas for wants, which these are areas that you can obviously cut back on, okay? And it's important to be able to see it. Visualizations are important when it comes to us planning and financial planning, okay? So the next apps, well, the next systems would be TD Ameritrade or Interactive Brokers. These are 2 platforms that actually allow international account holders to be set up. The accounts are in US dollars, so make sure that you make all your checks with the Central Bank of Barbados because of our exchange controls. Now, these are 2 platforms that you can trade or invest on, and knowing the difference between trading and investing is important. Trading is generally what the activity you do when it's a quick buy and sell. There's a short period of time between when you're buying and selling, whereas investing is generally for a long-term investment. You have bought shares into a company and you're just going to kind of more or less sit on them for a long period of time, okay? So knowing the difference allows you to be able to set up accordingly, right? So one thing I particularly like about both of these platforms is that they have a very good education platform. TD Ameritrade, you can actually go on their YouTube channel and you can watch their videos on simple things. What is a bond? What's a call or put option? But then they obviously get a lot more advanced and shows you what you need to look at in terms of reading the markets. So this is all a part of educating yourself, right? And that's important. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is Kraken. I personally don't use Kraken, and I'm going to tell you why. This allows international account holders as well, and the same applies. Make sure you check with the central bank, etc. Now, Kraken is a platform for investors who are interested in the cryptocurrency space. Personally, it's not a space that I'm interested in. I prefer to indirectly invest in crypto. So maybe looking at some of the companies who build the platforms for them to be able to mine. That's something you could always look at as well without directly purchasing cryptocurrency. Once again, educate yourself. Crypto is a very volatile market, so note that. Now, we're going to lump these 3 together: Bloomberg, Blinkist, and Coursera. Now, the key to self-improvement, whether financially or otherwise, is knowledge, okay? Here are a few of the apps that I personally use. Bloomberg for investing. You can always get a monthly membership with Bloomberg. It's not very expensive, and they're always doing obviously discounts on that. Blinkist, for the person who is probably like myself and what Allison would have mentioned as well, we do a lot of these talks. Sometimes we don't always have time to catch up on our reading. Blinkist is an app that you can use to read books in 20 minutes or less. So what they've basically done is that they've read books from a wide range of authors and genres, and they summarize the salient points within those books for you to read within 20 to 30 minutes. So you can actually get all of the important information from a book that you've been maybe dying to read using Blinkist. And personally, I try to read at least 1 Blinkist book a day. Right, and that's my way of broadening and working on my knowledge base, and not just financial stuff or financial books. Coursera, I think that speaks for itself. Doesn't only have courses, but it also has the university links. So through Coursera, I know that they have links with a range of universities. So universities who might be offering the accounting accreditations, or universities who might be offering certificates in other areas that might actually be beneficial to your career choice or to your accounting profession, right? One thing that the world is moving towards is technology. So along with your accountant designation, maybe you want to learn how to code. And that's a great way to do that through Coursera or through their courses, right? So that's it for me for this evening. And now I'm going to open the floor to any questions. Of course, you can contact me, and this is the way in which you can contact me, either by email at nikita@claritylifeinsurance.com. And I too have an Instagram page. It's called my2cents.bb. That's just a blog where I share a lot of financial information on a wide range of topics. And I too personally follow Allison on LinkedIn and Instagram, and I do recommend that you do so and check out her book as well. It makes a fabulous Christmas gift, as you build for yourself. So the floor is now open to questions.
All right, thank you very much, Nikita. So again, as Nikita said, we will be answering the questions submitted. Just as a reminder, you can still submit questions through the question and answer box. And if you would like to ask a question verbally, you can do so by raising your hand and you will be unmuted. So we have 5 questions thus far in the chat. So the first question, is the emergency fund separate from the 3 savings accounts mentioned? So therefore, essentially 4 savings accounts?
That is correct. So the reason why I didn't call or didn't specify it as 4 savings accounts is that your investment fund can also be investments. It doesn't have to necessarily be cash sitting in the bank. But one of the things that I would recommend for an emergency fund is that it's something that is liquid, okay? So investments that you can quickly liquidate, because obviously it's an emergency. You don't want to have to wait a week or a month to be able to access your funds when you urgently need it. So just be mindful of that when you're setting up your emergency fund.
Okay, cool. So the second question we have, any room for investment in cannabis? What are your thoughts? Added to that, what about Bitcoin and the like?
Okay, so as it relates to cannabis, that would be in the non-traditional list of investments. Now, my list was not exhaustive. That's the first thing. My views on cannabis as an investment, it makes a good investment if you have the capital to get into it. And I'm not talking about the licenses. The licenses are fairly reasonable, but obviously the infrastructure in you getting a cannabis farm up and running. And with everything, there's risk, right? And with everything, there's obviously an expense, and you need to be able to weigh your expenses versus your expected revenue. One thing you could look into as well is if you're buying a property or land, rather, to set up a cannabis farm or maybe a lab, the other thing you can add to that is alternative energy as well. So maybe you can set up a solar farm, maybe you can set up a wind farm, a wind energy farm, so that you can, help assist and raise even more returns or income from one property. So my thing is to never limit yourself, and I have 0 problems, and I think with the cannabis industry or as an investment, so I say go for it if you can. And as it relates to Bitcoin, personally, I take a step back, as I would have mentioned, but that's for anyone who wishes to get involved. It's the same as any other security. Weigh your pros and cons, decide for yourself as an investor what your risk appetite and tolerance is, and if you are willing and you're okay with the exposure, then go for it. They do have high returns. I think the market is doing quite well currently for crypto. So.
Okay, great. So the next question is, any advice on these non-traditional investment vehicles?
Okay, so as it relates to the non-traditional, again, any investment before you get into it, educate yourself as thoroughly as you can and check with professionals to make sure that you have all of the necessary information to make an informed decision, whether traditional or non-traditional, okay? So for me, it's just a matter of you making, that's a personal decision as an investor. Decide again what your risk appetite is. If you know you don't have an appetite for volatile markets, stay out of certain non-traditional investments. If you know that you, and in which case then maybe you just prefer fixed deposits, but if you know you're someone who's okay with the risk, you're okay with the volatility, you'll be able to sleep at night and not be stressed out, then go for it. With everything, you have to kind of weigh the pros and the cons, weigh the risk appetite, your risk tolerance, and then go from there.
Okay, great. So the next person is saying that they're 17 years old and would like to start investing now to help pay for college. So what would be the best way?
Okay, so that very much so depends on a few variables. You're looking to invest for college. So the first thing is, have you identified what your career path is? Have you identified the university? Do you know how much it will cost or may cost by the time you get there? Because obviously university fees, they do add on an annual inflation rate to their fees. So once you have that starting position, now you need to figure out, okay, how do I reach my goal? And you're 17, which means you're probably not working, which means you're probably dependent on your parents. So the question would be, what can your parents currently afford out of their disposable income to set aside to assist you with university? Alternatively, what scholarships are available to you, whether locally or otherwise, depending on what type of university you're going to. And then, of course, there is the student loan option, in which case, what do I need to provide in order to qualify for a student loan? So am I going to the student revolving loan, or am I going to the financial institution? Either way, you need your parents. So I will make sure that you kind of sit down and have that conversation with them to determine what is your path forward. I can just tell you what I did. And from the time I was 12, I had the whole summer jobs, and it would be the simplest of things. And I was put money into my credit union account every summer or every Christmas when I worked. When I went to the University of the West Indies Cave campus, and once I was on campus, what I would have done then is any summer jobs I would have had or Christmas jobs during that period, I would try to set aside a certain amount of money towards that. And then what I then did was I applied for scholarships to help me. Applied for a loan in order to complete the last part of my program. So everybody's journey is a little bit different. You just need to be able to put it all on paper and see where you are, where you need to be, and what are the options available to you.
Great. We have someone asking you to repeat the information about the wallet app. They're interested in using it.
Okay, the wallet app is actually available on both Android and Apple, and it's a particularly good app. I'm just sharing it back so you can see what it looks like on the inside, so you can look for it in the App Store. And basically, I personally use this app every single day. So I can take up my phone now, take a look at the app and see where my money is at any point in time and see how my money is working for me as well. Okay, it's also a very good way of tracking what your liabilities are. Okay, so I can look there and see what's the balance on my mortgage, or what's the balance on your student loan. You can see it all in one place and know where your money is. That's important.
Great. Someone is asking, what is the best amount to invest as a beginner?
That's a personal decision you have to make. Again, investing is all about, am I okay losing some or all of this money? And before you start investing, you should make sure you have all those other things in place, or at least you've started. So you should make sure you have some savings set aside. Make sure you are in a financial position and a good financial health before you start investing. Get your financial life in place first and get it to a certain point before you start to invest. Because remember, again, it goes up and down, and you shouldn't be necessarily relying on your investments for your everyday uses. You shouldn't be relying on your investments for travel or to pay bills, etc. So make sure you have that part covered first. And once you do, then you take a look at your disposable income and say, well, okay, how much of my disposable income am I okay maybe losing part of, maybe losing all of? How much of my disposable income am I willing to actually invest and work for itself?
Okay, we have someone asking, how do you start investing in crypto?
Okay, so I mentioned one platform. It's called Kraken. Kraken, and the reason why I mention them is that they allow persons to set up international accounts with them, and you have most of the cryptocurrencies available on the market trading on Kraken. So that's the way in which that I am aware of currently. That will probably be the best way. Is reputable platform, and Kraken will be the way to go.
Okay, great. Someone is asking, will the presentation be shared on a platform for reference?
So that's a question for ICAB. I'll make it available, and you can always check with ICAB to access.
Yeah. All right, so Wendell is commenting, saying it's not a question. He just wanted to comment that a key component in planning is recognizing that plans tend to fail and the long-term view is most important.
That is spot on, Wendell. Thank you for adding that. It's important to note that with financial planning, your plans change. It could change every day. And as I would have mentioned, one of the things I do is that I set up a financial plan for each year. And the reason for that is some people think you just do a financial plan once and that's it. No, it doesn't. It's not just a one-time thing. This is a continuous thing. Plans change, your life change, your priority changes, the expectations change, you know, and you have to change along with the plan. And that's one of the big ways in which people can fail when it comes to a financial plan. And that's not adjusting. You have to be able to adjust to maybe more or less income coming in, maybe more or less expenses every month, or maybe something that you had as your intermediate or long-term plan is no longer your plan, and maybe you want to change that. Maybe you want to do something else, or maybe you just want to adjust it. So being flexible is important when it comes to financial planning.
Okay, great. So we have one more question. How easy is it to invest in the US market?
It depends. If I'm being quite honest, I have a few posts on my Instagram page about that as well. So the easiest way, absolute easiest, simplest way is to get a US dollar denominated account in Barbados. And as you would know, the central bank has now relaxed that possibility, and anyone can get a US dollar denominated account. Here comes the snag or the snatch with that. The catch with that is the fact that in order to open an account, even a Barbados dollar account, you have to provide two sources, two proofs of ID. You need to provide your proof of address, and you have to provide your source of funds, right? Now, you need to be able to prove to the bank that you've gotten US dollars in a legitimate way, whether it is through your salary, through other investments, or maybe it's through some other forms or means, but you have to be able to show them that in order to get that US dollar account. So once you have that US dollar account, it's pretty simple from there. You just transfer money from your US dollar account to your TD or your Interactive Brokers account, and you start trading. Now, if you can't get a US dollar denominated account, your next best bet will be to request from the central bank to be able to use your annual investment amount. And if memory serves me right, I'm trying to remember what that amount is on an annual basis, but it's on my2cents.bb, and that's based on our on our exchange controls. So once you apply, you inform them that you wish to invest X amount based on whatever is the maximum for the year, then you can, once they approve, then you can go through the process of wiring those funds to your bank as well from your bank to the brokerage account, and then you can start trading. But of course, again, I highly recommend trying to get the US dollar denominated account.
Okay, we have a question in the chat. Any information on brokerage fees?
Those platforms currently don't charge brokerage fees. They do have fees on some of the more advanced type trades. So for the average investor, you probably wouldn't be paying any brokerage fees. And that was something that came about a couple of years ago, where brokerage fees were more or less banished. I think that may have started with Robinhood. I could be wrong, so don't quote me there. In that they would have stopped charging brokerage fees, and then all the other companies then followed behind them.
Okay, great. I think that was the last question. Just want to confirm if anyone else has any more questions for Nikita. Now is your chance.
That just simply means I did a good job presenting and a good job answering the post-presentation questions.
I was just about to say that, yes. So let me just say thank you, Nikita, for your thought-provoking session, and thank you for everyone to attending ICAB Student Conference. So I'd just like to now introduce Kaylee Thompson, a member of the ICAB Education and Student Services Committee, to deliver the closing remarks. Kaylee.
Thank you, Audley, for the introduction, and a good evening to everyone. First and foremost, I would like to thank Barbados Public Workers Cooperative Credit Union and its subsidiaries for sponsoring this evening's event. Secondly, I would like to thank our two presenters, Alison Brown-Ellis and Nikita Gibson, for their contribution on two very topical areas, a guide to work-life balance and financial planning. I think in this pandemic, it is paramount that we live a balanced life, or as Alison stated previously, a balanced blend to better sustain our overall health. And I think living a paid life is a great start, as she mentioned earlier. And as Nikisha has recommended, I think we must make financial plans not only for our future benefit, but to account for unforeseen circumstances, which, if anything, has taught us this year with COVID and all the other unforeseen things that have come up. We must have plans for those as well. Thirdly, I would like to thank the ICAB Secretariat, Council, and the members of the Education and Student Services Committee for their continuous work behind the scenes to make this annual webinar a success. And lastly, I would like to thank you, the attendees, for joining us this evening. We hope that this webinar was indeed informative. And kindly also note that if you have any other questions for the presenters, you can email them to conference@icab.bb. I'll repeat that again. conference@icab.bb. Thank you. Over to you, Audley.
Okay, thanks, Kaylee. Once you leave the conference, you will receive a survey, and we would appreciate if you would complete that and provide your feedback. On behalf of the Institute of Chartered Accountants Barbados and the presenters today, thank you for joining us, and do have a good night.